The morning light crept through the blinds of the Hayes' modest brick house, softening the sharp edges of a kitchen still carrying yesterday's laughter. Marcus Hayes stood at the stove, stirring a skillet of scrambled eggs with a rhythm that matched the hum of the radio. His daughter, Amara, 16, sat at the table with a stack of note cards in front of her. Her brow furrowed in concentration as she rehearsed the closing lines of her debate speech under her breath. "Say it like you mean it," Marcus teased gently, without turning from the stove. His voice was deep, steady, the kind of voice that made students lean in when he lectured about Harriet Tubman or the Reconstruction Amendments. Amara rolled her eyes, but a smile tugged at the corner of her lips. "I am saying it like I mean it," she shot back. She shuffled the cards and tried again, this time letting her words ring a little sharper, a little louder. "That's better," Marcus said, sliding eggs onto her plate. "Your mother would be proud of you." The mention of her mother landed in the air like a fragile ornament. Amara's eyes dropped to her plate. It had been 7 years since her passing, yet the absence still had a way of echoing in the small silences. Marcus reached across the table and squeezed his daughter's hand once, a gesture both grounding and unspoken. Outside the hum of cicadas, mixed with the bark of a neighbor's dog, the Hayes house sat on the edge of town. In a neighborhood where porches leaned on each other and kids rode their bikes until dusk, it was a place stitched together by small acts of kindness, though shadows of history ran through it. The kind Marcus tried to untangle for his students every day in his classroom by 8 o'clock. The house was alive with the rituals of departure, Amara gathering her debate binder, Marcus packing a stack of graded essays into his worn leather satchel. His shirt sleeves were rolled neatly to his elbows, his tie slightly crooked. He looked every bit the teacher he was, methodical, patient, and quietly dignified. On their way out the door, Amara paused. "Dad, do you ever get tired of teaching the same history over and over?" Marcus locked the door behind them, then gave a wry smile. "It's never the same. History isn't just dates and names, it's choices. Who had power, who didn't, and how they fought for it. And those choices still ripple through us. You'll see it tonight when you debate." Amara considered that as they climbed into his old Chevy sedan, a car held together by memory and oil changes. As Marcus started the engine, a gospel song filled the car, its melody steady and soaring. For a moment, the weight of life felt lighter. The road ahead stretched wide, lined with pines and oaks bending in the breeze. Marcus tapped the steering wheel in time with the music, glancing at his daughter with a quiet pride. Despite everything, the long hours, the grief they had carried, the subtle slights that still came with being a black man in a small southern town, there was peace in this moment. He didn't know that by nightfall, that peace would be shattered on this very road. He didn't know that Amara's debate speech about justice would soon echo against something far greater than a school auditorium, but for now, it was just a father and daughter, sharing a drive, a meal, a life built on resilience. The kind of quiet dignity that no mob, no hatred, no system could easily erase by the time the debate ended. The sky had slipped into a bruised shade of indigo. The kind of southern night where the air felt heavy and the stars blinked faintly through a haze of humidity. Amara clutched her trophy, a small gold figure on a wooden base, as if it were made of glass. Marcus congratulated her with a firm squeeze on the shoulder, pride radiating from his eyes. They were later leaving than he'd hoped, and he knew the back roads would be darker than usual. But it was the quicker way home, and Marcus had driven them 100 times. He turned onto the narrow 2-lane highway, headlights cutting through the thick dark. The radio murmured softly, Mara humming along absent-mindedly as she scrolled through her phone. A few miles in, the glow of lights appeared ahead. At first, Marcus thought it was a broken-down car. But as he drew closer, the shapes sharpened. Not one, but 3 pickup trucks stretched across the road, blocking both lanes. Their headlights blazed like interrogation lamps, casting long shadows across the pavement. Engines idled, low and menacing, the smell of exhaust hanging in the damp air. Marcus slowed, then stopped, his hands tightening on the steering wheel. Amara looked up, confused. "Dad? Why are they just sitting there?" He didn't answer right away. Through the windshield, he could see them, men leaning against their trucks, arms crossed, baseball caps pulled low. One lifted his phone, recording. Another tapped a bat casually against his palm. Their grins were wide, careless, like boys daring each other on a playground. But this wasn't play. One of the men stepped forward, signaling for Marcus to roll his window down. Marcus lowered it halfway, keeping his voice calm. "Evening," the man drawled. "You lost." "No," Marcus replied evenly. "We're just headed home." The man's grin stretched wider. "See? This here's private property. Don't think I've seen you drive this way before. This is a public road," Marcus corrected softly, his tone firm but not sharp. "We're not trespassing." Another man chuckled, spitting tobacco juice onto the asphalt. "Funny how you think you get to tell us what's public." He slapped the hood of Marcus's car, hard enough to make Amara jump. Marcus's heart thudded, but his voice stayed level. "Please step back. My daughter's in the car." The first man leaned closer to the window, the smell of beer thick on his breath. "Ain't nobody gonna hurt your little girl. Long as you cooperate." Amara shifted in her seat, her phone half hidden in her lap, recording. Marcus noticed, but didn't react. Didn't give away their advantage. He knew these men thrived on fear, on raising voices and sudden moves. He also knew the sheriff's deputies would be slow to answer if they even bothered to come at all. He lifted his chin, meeting the man's eyes with a calm steadiness that unsettled more than anger could. "We're going to sit here," Marcus said quietly, "until you move your trucks. That's all." For a beat, silence stretched. Then laughter broke out, harsh and mocking. "Hear that, boys? Teacher thinks he can give us orders." Another truck revved its engine, the sound snarling in the night. Amara's hand trembled slightly as she gripped her phone tighter. She whispered, "Dad, maybe we should turn around." Marcus didn't look away from the men. His voice dropped low, almost for her ears alone. "No, baby. We don't run from people who think they own the road." The men shifted, circling their boots crunching gravel. The air thickened, charged with something old and ugly, the same poison Marcus had taught about in his classroom. The kind that wore different masks across history, but always carried the same sneer. The night was no longer just about a blocked road. It was about power. And Marcus knew they had just stepped into the kind of history he usually only told from behind a shit called. The silence shattered with a fist on the hood. The thud echoed in the night, rattling through the car's frame and straight into Amara's chest. She flinched, clutching her phone tighter. Marcus didn't move. His hands rested calmly at 10 and 2 on the wheel. His face set in a mask of composure he had perfected over years of teaching restless students and weathering subtle humiliations that came with simply existing in his skin. "Get out the car," one man barked. His shadow loomed across the windshield, shoulders squared as if ready for a fight. "We're not getting out," Marcus said. His voice low, steady, every syllable measured. The man leaned closer, tapping the glass with a dirty fingernail. "What you hiding for, scared?" Behind him, another chuckled, pulling out his phone to film. "Look at him. Thinks he's some big shot. Got his kid with him too. That's cute." Laughter erupted,
How cruel and sharp.
bouncing between the trucks like a pack of hyenas circling prey. One man walked around to the passenger side, peering in at Amara. She instinctively turned her phone toward him, recording. He sneered, yanking at her door handle. Marcus's voice cut through the chaos, firm and commanding without rising in pitch. "Step away from my daughter." The man froze for a moment, surprised by the steel under the calm. Then he smirked and backed off, spitting on the ground before muttering, "You don't belong out here anyway." Another man shouted from the back, "Call the sheriff." "Tell him we caught someone prowling." Prowling. The word landed like a stone in Marcus's stomach. It was a lie as old as the dirt road beneath them, the kind of word that had condemned too many before him. His grip on the steering wheel tightened just enough for his knuckles to pale. Still, he did not move, did not raise his voice. Amara whispered, "Dad, can't just—" "I know," Marcus said gently, cutting her off. His eyes never left the men. "Keep recording." The group grew bolder, banging on the trunk, the roof, circling the car like wolves. Their trucks boxed him in, engines rumbling as if daring him to bolt. One revved forward an inch, bumper nearly kissing his rear fender. The headlights burned hot and unrelenting into the mirrors, blinding, suffocating. Marcus inhaled deeply, grounding himself. He thought of the lessons he gave his students. History wasn't just what happened, it was how people chose to face it. This was his moment of choice. He cracked the window just a little more, enough for his voice to carry. Every second you spend here, you're proving exactly what you are. And my daughter's recording every word. So, go ahead. Keep talking. The men hesitated, the gears faltering for just a heartbeat. They hadn't expected composure. They wanted rage, shouting, fists, something they could twist. Instead, they were met with silence sharp enough to cut. Look at him, one finally muttered, circling back to bravado. Think he's better than us. Thinks he can just sit there, high and mighty. Marcus met his eyes through the glass, calm, unflinching. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. The power was already shifting, though neither side fully realized it yet. Amara's phone vibrated in her hand. Messages from her debate team lighting up the screen. We can see you. Keep streaming. Don't stop. Marcus's jaw set. He knew then that this night would not stay hidden on a back road. The injustice they tried to bury in darkness had already begun to bleed into the light, and, though his heart pounded against his ribs, though fear prickled at the back of his neck, Marcus kept still. Anchored in something the men couldn't shake. Dignity, restraint. The refusal to give them the fight they wanted. The road was blocked. The law was absent. But Marcus Hayes would not break. Not here. Not tonight. The night pressed heavier with each passing minute. The men restless now, circling like they'd lost the rhythm of their cruelty. Amara's live stream continued, her hands trembling slightly, but her voice unbroken. Marcus's new silence could only hold for so long before something snapped, either them or him. He wasn't going to let it be him. He rolled the window down a little further and leaned into the cold slice of air. You all think you're making a point tonight, he said evenly, eyes sweeping across the men, catching each one in the glare of the headlights. But the only thing you're showing is fear. One of the younger men barked a laugh. Fear? You're the one trapped in your car with your little girl? You ain't got nothing but that busted Chevy and a big mouth? Marcus's gaze didn't flinch. He let the silence stretch, steady as a drumbeat, before speaking again. You ever heard of Kandahar? The laughter faltered, confused glances exchanged. What the hell's that got to do with this? I was there, Marcus said simply. U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Built bridges while mortars rained down, patched roads under sniper fire. I've seen convoys like yours in places where people didn't come back alive. And I'm telling you now, he lifted his chin, his voice calm but carrying an edge sharp enough to cut through the humid night. You're amateurs. The words hung, strange and dissonant against the sound of idling engines. One of the older men shifted uncomfortably, clearing his throat. The swagger of certainty thinned, unraveling around the edges. Marcus kept his eyes locked on them, his tone neither boastful nor pleading, but matter of fact. You think you're in control because you blocked a road? I built roads in war zones. I know how to get through them, around them, past them, and I never once needed a gun or a mob to do it. Amara glanced at her father, a new light dawning in her eyes. She'd grown up with pieces of his service, but never like this, never sharpened into something that could disarm men twice his size without him leaving his seat. From the corner of her screen, comments were flooding in. Who is he? He's military. This is insane. Somebody call CNN. The gang hadn't noticed yet. They were still caught on his words, their drunken confidence wobbling under the quiet force of his composure. One of them muttered, "Man's full of it," but the conviction was gone. Marcus let his hand rest on the dashboard, where his small black dashcam blinked faintly red, recording. This is all being saved, he continued. And my daughter's feed? That's live. People are already watching. So keep banging. Keep yelling. Every second you stay here, you're giving the world proof. The revelation rippled through them like a stone dropped in still water. Phones lowered. Jaws tightened. The man who had slapped the hood stepped back, his bravado draining into something smaller, meaner. "You think the cops care?" he spat. "They're with us." Marcus's mouth curved into something between sadness and steel. "Then the cops can explain themselves on national television." For the first time that night, silence pressed from their side. No laughter. No gears. Just the hum of engines and the weight of a truth too large to ignore. Marcus leaned back in his seat, his profile outlined in the glow of headlights. He didn't look triumphant. He didn't even look angry. He looked resolute, a man who'd carried too much history on his back too. Let a handful of bullies dictate the story. In that moment, Amara saw him not just as her father, not just as the man who graded essays late into the night and fixed squeaky doors with duct tape, but as someone who had walked through fire before and come out steady, someone who could bend a night like this without breaking. The balance had shifted. They didn't know it yet, but the gang had already lost.